오늘 강연하실 체이스 선생님을 모시겠습니다.
Hi. Like she said, my name's Chase. It's nice to meet all of you. I'm excited to speak with you today. I am more excited to hear what questions you come up with for me, because I love being able to share my experiences with other people, but I want it to be interesting for you guys. So think of a lot of things to ask me today, and I will be as honest and as complete as I can. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So how should I switch slides now? So my name's Chase Fitzgerald. It's a little bit tough to say for the Korean tongue, but that is an Irish last name. So I'm half Irish from Ireland and half Italian. My mom's last name is Patrizio. So I have darker features, like dark eyebrows and dark eyes and dark brown hair. And so that comes from my Italian genes, from my mom. So I'm very happy that I look like my mom and not my dad. So today we will talk about where I'm from for a little bit. So I'm from the United States, but more specifically, I'm from the Southwest. So the Southwest is normally these 5 states, California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. Does anyone remember where she said I was from? Arizona. So my state is right here. Oh, Arizona. Arizona is right next to Mexico. It's to the right. It's above Mexico and to the right of California. This is one of the many beautiful places that I want to show you today. It's called the Wave. Doesn't it kind of look like the ocean? But it's just rock and sand. So Arizona is famous for these. They're cactuses, or cacti. So this is called a saguaro cactus, and one of the only places you can find this cactus in the whole world is in Arizona. Arizona and New Mexico are the only 2 states, or the only places in the whole world you can find this cactus. The real ones look very beautiful, so that's what a big saguaro cactus looks like. And these arms on the saguaro cactus take a very, very long time to grow. So maybe each arm on the cactus takes about 50 years to grow. So this shows you that this cactus is maybe close to 100 years old. So another beautiful place that Arizona has is this place. It's one of my favorite places to visit. It's called Sedona. Can we say Sedona? Sedona. So Sedona is famous for these rocks. These big, big rocks. And they call them the red rocks, the Sedona red rocks. That's because these rocks have an element. Does everyone remember from maybe science class, the elements, all of the elements? Yes? Oxygen, hydrogen, yes? Okay, so these rocks have an element called iron, Fe, okay? And because they have so much iron in the rock, when iron is exposed, when iron meets oxygen in the air, it gets oxidized, is what we call it. It gets a plus sign on it, and when that happens, it turns red. And so that's why these rocks are red. And iron is the same thing that we say is very healthy for you to have in your body. So that's why in Korea, you eat seaweed soup on your birthday. Even if you don't like it, your mom says, it is good for you, because it's good for your blood. Iron's in your blood, and that's what makes your blood red. Well, actually, your blood is only blue in your body, but when it meets the oxygen of the air, or when you breathe in, and it gets oxygen mixed, then it turns red. So here's another place. If you all maybe have Windows computers, maybe you've seen this place before. It's called Antelope Canyon. It's a very famous, beautiful place, but what's interesting about it is that these canyons are actually inside of the ground. So when you're outside, it just looks like a small crack in the ground, a small hole. And then you can climb maybe 30 meters down. You take a little bit dangerous stairs, and you go down, and inside there's these very, very beautiful canyons that have been formed by water from the rain. So this is called the angel's wing. And so maybe you can see, it kind of looks like a woman. Here's her face, here's her hair, and here's a wing with her neck here. Does everyone see it? Yeah. So I've been here a few times, and it's a very beautiful place to take your friends. And this is what it looks like when you look up. And also from my state is one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon. So I love the Grand Canyon. From the top, it looks very empty. It looks like there's no life here. But when you climb to the bottom, there are waterfalls, trees, animals, all kinds of life at the bottom. And the temperature is very different. At the top, it's maybe very hot, but inside it's beautiful. It's like a paradise. And so when I was 3rd grade middle school in the United States, I actually had a chance to go with my 2 brothers and my father to go trekking or hiking through the Grand Canyon. So maybe it's 2,200 meters down and 2,400 meters up. And we did it for 2 days, and it was a lot of fun. So what do people think of my state? A lot of people think it's too hot and that it's a desert. So summer in Korea on a very hot day is maybe 33 degrees Celsius. But from where I'm from, on a very hot day, it can be as high as 50 degrees Celsius. I know maybe you're thinking, is it possible to live? Won't you die? And sometimes you feel like you are dying. I will be honest, it is awful. But this weather only lasts for maybe 1 or 2 months during the year. And it is also what we call a dry heat, So when it's hot in Korea, it kind of feels like you are wet and you sweat a lot because Korea is next to the water. And so we have what is called humidity in the air. That means that there's a lot of water in the air. So it kind of feels, when it's hot in Korea, it feels like you have a wet blanket or towel on. And this is very uncomfortable. But in Arizona is what we call a dry heat. So the air is so hot and has no water in it, so it almost takes all of the water out of your body. So maybe that's why you feel like you're going to die. But the nice thing about a dry heat is that when you find the shade where there's some cover and you are in the shadow, it gets much cooler. Maybe it can drop as much as 10 degrees Celsius just by going into the shade. So it's okay that it's this hot in the summertime. Also, because it's this hot, a lot of people in Arizona have swimming pools in their homes. So I grew up with a big swimming pool and a kind of jacuzzi spa, and it was always a fun thing to invite all of my friends over on the weekends or after school to go swimming. So there's some good things about it being very hot. Another thing people think is that it's very big and empty. So if you look at this map, it shows where all of the people live in Arizona. So the green means that maybe less than 100 people in some places live here. And everywhere in the red and the orange and the green is where most people in Arizona live. So maybe they're true that there isn't much human life in certain areas of my state. That's because we have a lot of natural beauty, like the Grand Canyon, like Sedona, like Antelope Canyon, and so there's a lot to explore and to go visit. So here is South Korea, right? Do you want to see how South Korea compares to my state? Maybe 2 South Koreas, or maybe 2 plus a little bit more, can fit inside of my state. So it's very big in comparison. It's very big. a lot of people also think, oh, Arizona, cowboy. But we will see that this isn't really that true. But maybe a long time ago, when people were still finding the west coast of the United States, Arizona had cowboys. But nowadays, not so much. So what people get wrong about my state? So it's hot and it is a desert, but there are also many beautiful places and a lot of green, a lot of forests in Arizona. There's parts of Arizona that are covered almost completely by forests, like this. And in these places in northern Arizona, so we saw before, most people live maybe right here. But maybe up here, where we can find these forests, the average temperature during the year is 24 degrees. So it's very beautiful. Oh, it's big, but it's empty. So we saw the other slide where the other people were, but where we do have people, we have a lot of people. So this is my city where I'm from. It's called Phoenix. Phoenix is the capital of Arizona. So like Seoul is the capital of Korea, Phoenix is the capital of Arizona. This is what it looks at nighttime. In Phoenix, over 1,600,000 people live. So it's a big city. So home of all the cowboys. Like I said before, in the past, this was true, but nowadays, not so much. There are not so many cowboys anymore. Maybe you can find cowboys in Texas. So for a little bit, I want to talk about my schooling. So for high school, I went to a school called Brophy. Brophy was an all-boys, oh no, so sad. All-boys Catholic high school. It was very beautiful. It looks kind of like a university. And because it was a Catholic school, one more. Oh, we went to Mass maybe once or twice a week, depending on your choices. But I went here for 4 years, and it was a really good experience because Brophy allowed me to travel, and Brophy allowed me to see more of the world, and it challenged me to think about a life outside of my own life. Because a lot of people are born in one place. They are given certain things. They have a good family, maybe a parent with a good job, and they just live their whole life in one place. This is kind of living within a bubble. Nothing can touch you inside of your bubble. But Brophy's approach is to take its students and to show them that there is a very, very big world outside of that bubble that we are used to. And they challenge us to think about what we can do to give back to our community and to the larger world. And we will talk about my travels a little bit. And for my university, I went to a university called Arizona State University. I'm very proud of my university. Go Sun Devils. We're the biggest university in all of America. We have 80,000 students on our campus, and we have a little bit of people on our online school, but 80,000 students, very, very big. So maybe when you're walking to class, it's kind of crazy like this. And while I was at Arizona University, I studied biology, the study of life. And I had a focus in genetics. So I studied how genes interact. So how do you have big eyes? Or how do you have dark hair? Or how are you short? Or how are you tall? So I talked about those kinds of things basically, and then a lot more complicated things and how all of that stuff happens. So soon I will start medical school, like she said earlier. So in America, instead of going from high school straight to a medical program like you do in Korea, maybe where you have 6 years of medical school after high school, we have to go to 4 years of undergraduate university first. So I studied biology in university, and I graduated after 4 years. Then they take my grades, and then they take a test. We take a standardized test, like the SAT or the Sunan. But it's only for medical school students. This test is so painful. This test, maybe you have to study many, many months for before you take. And when you take it, it is 7.5 hours. And you take it on a computer screen. So your eyes feel like they're on fire and that they're going to bleed. It's very painful. And you have to remember so many things. Maybe my books were this high off the ground for everything that I was supposed to remember. I did not remember all of it, but I did well enough that I was able to be accepted into medical school. So they take your grades, your test score, and you also have to do a long process of applying to the school. So in Korea, when you are going from high school to college, you have people like your teachers that write recommendations to you, and you have your student record. We have a similar system of recommendation letters that you need to get into medical school in the United States. But every school asks for a different number from a different kind of person. So it is a very long process to get everyone to write these things about you. And then you have to write many papers by yourself about your ideas for medicine, why you want to be a doctor, what you will bring to their school. And after all of that, they review many, many people, and they decide who they will give an interview. 4 more years of school in medical school. And then after that, I have maybe 2 or 3 years as a resident or an intern. And then after that, maybe 2 more years to do an extra program to specialize. So how old do you think I am? Can you guess? How about, what do you think? 30? Oh, okay. One more. 24. Korean age, I am 24. I just had my 23rd birthday. My birthday was in April. So by the time I am done with medical school and all of the things that happen afterwards, maybe I will be 30. So medical school is much different than normal school. I'll go to maybe 3 or 4 hours of classes each day, but after my classes, they do a lot of things like practice doctoring, is what they call it. And so they have people pretend, they're like actors, pretend to be patients, and you have to go into the room and pretend to be a doctor. And this practice over and over and over is supposed to help us be ready to be a real doctor. Also, we do rotations in the hospitals. So there's different buildings and different companies that partner with the medical school to give you many opportunities to see different types of medicine. So, like she said, I love to travel, and I've been traveling the world maybe since I was in high school. Like I said, my high school gave me the opportunity to start traveling, and I am very grateful and thankful for that. So I've been to 8 different countries, and I want to talk a little bit about the countries that I've been to. So the first one is Mexico. Mexico is, like I said before, very close to Arizona. Just right here, and my state is here. They touch each other. And Mexico is beautiful. It's fantastic. In school, I actually studied Spanish. Se habla español. That was my second subject. So I went to Mexico for the first time when I was maybe 13 years old with my family, my dad and my brothers. And Mexico was the first place that I got to see people that had a completely different life than me. So my state, because it is so close to Mexico, has many Mexican American people. So we have people that look similar to these people, But if you live in America, you live an American life most of the time. But Mexico, everything is so different. It's much quieter, much slower, and much more peaceful. People who do not have as many things as I had when I was younger, maybe they are not as rich, maybe they don't have as good of a job, they are still very, very, very happy people. And this is one of the first times that I was able to see that happiness is not connected to being successful. So in Korea and also in the United States, you're always told you cannot be happy unless you get a very good job. Go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, go work for the government. But this isn't always true. Different cultures around the world give different priority or importance to different things. And in Mexico, being close with your family and being able to share what you do have is the most important thing. And they are also saying how thankful they are for the things that they have, way more than I hear both in Korea and both in America. The second place that I visited outside of the United States was Guatemala. Does everyone know Guatemala? Yes? Yes. Okay. So, like I said, my high school allowed me to travel and see the bigger world. And the first chance I had, I took that opportunity in my high school. They had a partnership with an orphanage. My dream is to study medicine, but it is impossible for an orphan to go that high in school because it gets too expensive. And over the next 2 weeks, as I traveled around the country with him, because he was able to come along with me, I saw through his eyes and through his heart, his passion for other people around him and everything that he wanted to give back to his community. And I thought, that is what I should do with my life. So when I went home, I started my path towards medicine. Then I went to Canada. Canada is very similar to America in a lot of ways. Most people that you can talk to from Canada, if they talk to you about Canadian culture, they are really talking about United States culture. We share our TV shows, we share our music. Justin Bieber, Canada. So I love Justin Bieber and I listen to him. You don't like him? You don't look excited. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So Justin Bieber is just like one of the many people that represent kind of the crossover between Canada and America. But a big difference in Canada is how polite, how kind, and how welcoming their people are. They will treat everyone that they meet just like family. And they're always saying, sorry. Then, when I was in college, I had the opportunity to go to Honduras for 2 weeks. Honduras. Honduras is actually one of the most dangerous places in the whole world. The capital of Honduras, Tegucigalpa, is the murder capital of the world, is what they call it. The murder capital of the world. That is not good for tourists. But that's because they have a lot of problems with their government. And they're very poor, but a lot of people live in this big city. So there's a lot of violence between gangs over drugs and over territory and land. I worked for 2 weeks way outside of the capital in a very small village, kind of countryside. And this town had been there for 200 years. But for all 200 years, they had never had running water. They had a little stream that they used to wash their clothes and to feed their cows. but that was also sometimes the water that they drank. And of course, maybe the cows went to the bathroom nearby, or the clothes were very dirty. So this water would make them very, very sick. And so the other way that they get water in this place is to dig a well, a big hole in the ground, and to keep water maybe just for your family. But some people cannot afford to dig a well. And also, because it is so hot in this part of Honduras, the rain that brings more water was less than the heat that took the water, that evaporated the water away. So even families that were rich enough to have a well were losing their water every year. There was less and less water for them to drink. So instead of being able to go to school, their young children would have to walk maybe 6 or 7 kilometers every day to the next town to get water and to roll that water back. This means that they could not get the education that they needed, and that they would always stay in this town for the rest of their lives. It gave them no ability to change their circumstance. And what we were doing there was starting a community project. This community project was to build a very, very, very big well that maybe goes 100 meters into the ground. This well can provide water for the whole community. And it uses electricity. Uh-oh, they don't have electricity. So this project also brought electricity to the town for the first time. So now they have electricity for their homes, and now they have water for their town. And so I was part of a program that dug the lines that brought... Myanmar is a very, very beautiful country. For maybe 50 years, they had a very violent and dangerous government. It was a dictatorship. And so no people have been to Myanmar for a very, very long time. And only 5 years ago, they opened their borders again and started letting tourists and different companies come into Myanmar. So Myanmar has been changing very, very fast. But I wanted to visit this place because, like Thailand and Vietnam, it has a lot of history. But their culture is still protected because it has only had its doors open for 5 years. So this place showed me how kind people who have had a very simple life can be. They don't need much, but they're always looking to help someone. It's also very, very beautiful. Then I went to Hong Kong. So maybe some people think Hong Kong is not a different country. It is part of China. And while China says that Hong Kong is part of China, in America we also recognize that Hong Kong is separate. So Hong Kong was amazing because Hong Kong used to be part of Britain, part of the UK. They speak English very, very well there. And they speak a different dialect of Chinese. They speak Cantonese. So they're very different people than people in China. I have to add one, because actually I have been to 9 countries. I've also been to China. I went to China for 3 weeks when I was in college, and I decided that I would come back to Asia one more time, and that's what brought me to Korea. Okay. And I also went to the Philippines, which is very beautiful. If you've never been before, highly recommend Philippines. And of course, South Korea. So, what brought me to South Korea? Well, my older brother, his name is Brett. He is 2 years older than me. And when he graduated university, he also became a Fulbright scholar. Fulbright is a United States State Department program, so it's run by the US government. And we have an embassy here in Korea, and they partner with the embassy to bring teachers and researchers to Korea to do studies. And so I'm one of the teachers that comes over. But before I came, for 2 years, my brother lived here in Korea. He lived in Naju. Do you know Naju? The Naju pear? And he had a very different experience from me because of course Naju is very small. And many people in Naju do speak no English at all. So my brother lived in Korea for 2 years, but he cannot speak English very well anymore and not speak Korean very well. He just smiled and laughed. So I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher here at a high school, an all-boys high school. Oh no. 청북고등학교. And I teach 2nd grade boys, just 2nd grade. And so I've been here for 1 year, but I started in August, which is in the middle of your school year here in Korea. So my first students are now in 3rd grade. So they were in 2nd grade and then they graduated to 3rd grade. They are very, very different students than my new students who were in 1st grade, who are now in 2nd grade. The third graders were crazy boys. They didn't like to listen to me. They didn't like to use English. And they just liked to yell and have a party every day. So I had to adapt my teaching style. I had to use a lot more games to get them to be interactive, even if their English level was very low. And then I also let them start a journal and write every day at the beginning of class. But I tried not to have them write about things that maybe you practice from your listening class in your regular English class. So we talked about things that they were shy about sharing. So I did a lesson called Post Secret. And Post Secret is all about taking, do you know it? Yeah. It's taking a secret that you have never shared with anyone and being able to share it without putting your name on the paper. So they were able to say things to me and to the rest of their class that they had never shared before. Also, I teach, again, at all boys. So maybe they don't think much about what it's like to be a girl. So I did many lessons on what it's like to be a girl. And I had my friends help me make these PowerPoint presentations and studies on getting them to think differently. Getting them to think differently about how they treat their friends or their girlfriends. I can give you one example of a lesson. Does everyone know Beyonce? Yes? Okay. Beyonce has a song and it's called If I Were a Boy. Do you know this song? Yes. Okay. So If I Were a Boy is Beyonce singing about what it's like to be a girl. She says everything she would do if she were a boy because she understands what it's like to be a girl and what she would do differently. So I taught a lesson where we watch the music video of If I Were a Boy. And this music video starts with Beyonce as a police officer in the morning, and she comes downstairs and she doesn't eat the breakfast that her boyfriend has made her. And then she goes to work and she has a boy or a male partner and she is working with him all day but flirting, right? And she's kind of having an inappropriate skinship. And then you see the boyfriend, and he is just thinking about his girlfriend and buying her presents and excited to see her later that day. Then she goes to dinner, and he tries calling her, and she does not pick up the phone. And then they meet, he gives her the present, and then in the next scene, you see her dancing with a different man in front of him. So this made him look very, very bad. And then they go home, and they get in this fight. They get in a big fight. And he says, when you act like that, do you even know how I feel or how it makes me look? And she goes, what? Why are you so jealous? It's not like I cheated on you. So she is saying, it's okay, I didn't kiss him. I did nothing wrong. I can do whatever I want. And then all of a sudden the music changes and you realize it was him that did all of these things. It was the man who didn't eat the breakfast. It was the man who flirted with his partner. It was the man who did not answer her phone calls. It was the man who danced with another girl. And it was the man who pretended everything was okay. So it challenges them to think differently about how they act when they're with girls because, oh, he's just a boy, right? We have to accept that that is how he acts. But that's not really true. And that isn't how it should be. So then we did a writing journal about that and what they would be if they were a girl. So, so with my traveling, that has been a big part of my experience here in Korea. I've been able to see a lot of Korea. I know some people who are born in Cheongju never really leave Cheongju, or maybe they go to Seoul one time, or 2 times, or 3 times to see a doctor. But I have seen many different places here in Korea. I started in Gyeongsang, countryside. Then I moved to Cheongju. I've been to Seokjo, Seoul, Busan, Gwangju, all throughout Gangwon-do, Jinju, Jeju, Mokpo, Naju, and it's been nice to travel more than most Korean people. And I've been able to see all of the different beautiful parts of Korea. And I'm very thankful for that opportunity because the more that you are able to travel, the more that you're able to see that people are influenced, they're changed by who they surround themselves with and what priorities or what important things that those people have in their lives are. And so when you go to a small place like Gyeongsang, it's kind of countryside, there is no big Shinsegae, right? The things that are important to a farmer there are very different than the things that are important in your life as a high school student or a middle school student or an elementary school student here in Cheongju. And even Cheongju is very, very different. The people and the culture. As a foreigner, sometimes it's actually very difficult to live in Korea. Yes, I miss my family sometimes. Of course, I've been away from them for almost 1 year. I miss my mom, my dad, my brothers, my sister. But also, some people in Korea are not willing and not ready to use their English skills, or maybe they have none. So they're they act a little scared or shy around foreigners. This can make a foreigner feel very uncomfortable at times, like we're not welcome, like we're not wanted. And I challenge you, as young people who are now learning English and probably speak English very well, to try to change that culture. Because the more accepting you are of other people, their way of life, their culture, and their language, the more you'll be able to understand what they bring to each conversation you have with them. Because I am not just a teacher. I'm a student, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm someone who has traveled the world, I'm someone who has experiences that maybe none of you have. And I have a lot to say. And I want to share with you, and I want to hear what you have to say. But we have to be meeting on an equal level. We have to meet on an equal level. And finally, family. I live with a Korean homestay here in Korea. My host brother, he goes to Cheongju Waego. He's a 2nd grade high school student. And I have another younger host brother that was 3rd grade middle school. It's still on middle school. But he moved to Canada for 1 year. He's very brave. And they have treated me very, very well. Sometimes we have communication problems because their English is not as high as maybe some of yours. But I have been able to see the love and the compassion that Korean people can have. And I'm very thankful for my time here and thankful for your time today. So thank you, everyone.
되게 거기에 관련해서 이야기 많이 해. 여기도 많이 나도
Hi, nice to meet you. My question is, what's your standard of happiness?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question to start with. I think that my standard of happiness is always changing. And I think that if you're really honest with yourself, maybe everyone should. Because the more you learn about the world in your own life and the more you grow as an adult, the more you'll have to accept that things don't always go well. That there will be a lot of trouble in your life, maybe even more trouble than there is good things happening. And it's about understanding and making the best of those opportunities and using them to grow. But for me, right now, what I'm looking for to be happy, to have a good work life, but also have balance. So I'm able to be a father, and that's a really important thing to me, is being able to raise children one day. And so I want to have enough time where I'm present and participating in their life. And then another thing is just keeping my family close and my friends even closer.
Where you have been in US? Where you traveled?
Where have I traveled in the United States? So I actually have family from the East Coast. So my dad grew up in a small town in Virginia. And his family is a little bit more country than my mom's family, but their focus is more about just like being close to one another. And my dad felt like at a young age he would never leave that place if he acted the same way. And so he tried to move away from his family as soon as he could and see more of the country, and that's how he met and married my mom. But I've been to Virginia, Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Colorado, Montana, California, New York, Boston, Massachusetts, and North and South Carolina, Hawaii. Many of the states, but just not in the middle. We call that the big what on the map of the United States, or like the flyover. But of course, some people are from there. Like Georgia, and then maybe one more.
Illinois.
No, I've never been to Illinois. Oregon.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do you still contact with the boy you met in Guatemala?
Yeah, so the program, Nuestros Pequeños Hermanos, Friends of the Orphans, my parents had been sponsoring, so they'd been paying each month to help one of the students, but not in Guatemala, in Mexico. And so we were in contact with her before I went to Guatemala. And when I went to Guatemala, because my family sponsored a kid, that's how he was able to travel with me and spend time with me, because we were already members of the program. And so after a week with him, I decided to become his sponsor. And so I pay a little bit of money each month to help him and support him there. And he has many people that do the same thing for him. But we also write letters. So yes, we are still in touch. But he's now 16, and so he only has maybe 2 more years in the program before he has to leave. His one option that I think he is now thinking about taking is to become a tío, and in Spanish that just means uncle. And essentially, basically you're like a counselor or like a tutor for the students and the other orphans in the program. So he might be staying with them as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Most impressive experience in Korea?
My most impressive experience in Korea with, what do you mean? With Korean people, or like what was the most fun thing I did in Korea? What are you thinking?
People?
With people. I think the conversations, the talking that I do with my host mom has been the best experience for me, and just being able to see her love for her children and trying to express that to them, but she has difficulty sometimes with doing this. And her willingness and her openness to allow me to come into her home and to see these very private moments of their life has been very special, because it has made me feel very, very close to them and a part of their family.
We are from group 2, and our big topic was you. Yeah. So thank you for your great lecture. I really got motivated from your lecture.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have 3 questions to ask you. I'll go first. Wasn't it like a little burden for you to study, because your brothers were good at study too? Like your mom will get more expectations about you?
I have 3 siblings. I have an older brother that's 2 years older than me. Then I am the second. Then I have a younger brother who's 2 years younger than me, and a younger sister who is 1 year younger than him. So they're both in university now, but me and my older brother have graduated. My mom has always had very high expectations for all of us. But maybe not even as high as Korean moms. Korean mom is up here. My mom is here. But my family has always given me many opportunities to be successful. I've been in good schools with good teachers, and I have parents that make sure that I'm doing my work and doing it well. But other than that, my parents had a very different kind of philosophy to raising us than maybe most Korean people are used to. So I didn't have a lot of tutors, I didn't go to extra studying. I just went to school, and when I had to study, it was my job to study. And I didn't, I don't want to be a bad example. My older brother is a very, very good student, but naturally he is not as smart as I am. So my brother works very, 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 very hard for his grades. And when I was in high school, maybe I would have a test, and I would study the night before for my test, and I would get perfect score. So my mom did not like that about me. She thought I should work harder. And when I got to college, I did have to. And definitely when I had to study for my medical exams, I had to. But a lot of that has been self-motivated, and I'm always kind of in control of what I'm doing, and it's my fault if I'm not successful. And instead of punishing me when I do bad, they just share how disappointed they are, and that's more motivation than you can ever hope for to work harder.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What doctor do you want to be in the future?
So a lot of people who decide to be a doctor at a really young age might know what kind of doctor they want to be. But some people who decide later, they keep an open mind. And I love so many things about medicine and about science that I don't want to pick what kind of doctor I want to be until I have to. So I'm going to try to learn everything and learn from everyone and approach them all with equal happiness and passion. And when I have to choose and when I apply to be in a certain program, then I will find out. But like I said before, I want to be a dad, and some types of doctors make it very difficult to be present during normal hours of the day. So I don't want to have to work too much inside of a hospital. A lot of our doctors they have what we call outpatient practices, where you have your own doctor's office and you're only open from 9 in the morning until 6 at night. So then I could go home for dinner and eat with the family, that kind of doctor. But there's many, many kinds of doctors that can do that.
Do you know why Arizona has many beautiful canyons?
I think we're just lucky, is why. But Arizona is one of those places, because it is so hot, some people think some places in Arizona are like too difficult to live in. So that's why there has not been like new cities built there. And as far as like the beautiful canyons, I think that's because of a very big river that used to run through Arizona. It's from Colorado. It's called the Colorado River. Maybe 1 or 2 million years ago, this river would have been extremely big, maybe even bigger than the state of Arizona at one point, and then it got smaller and smaller. And as it got smaller, it started to cut out the canyons of like the Grand Canyon. And so that's how it was made. It was made by erosion over time and water and wind. Yeah, we're just lucky is I think why we have so much beautiful land. But Korea has very beautiful places too, and if you haven't seen them, you should travel.
What do you learn from the travel to Grand Canyon?
So yeah, I've been to the Grand Canyon just to look out many times. I go with friends and family when they come to visit. But hiking the Grand Canyon was a very different experience. I would say one of the biggest things that came out of it for me is because we were sleeping inside of the canyon and doing camping, we had to have very big camping bags with us, big hiking bags. And they were heavy because they had a lot of stuff in them. And I was kind of young. I was maybe your age, right? So before I went to the Grand Canyon, me, my dad, and my brothers did a lot of training. We would run mountains with very heavy backpacks on. And that was some of the most difficult training I've ever done in my whole life. And being able to just overcome when you feel like you're dying. Because you know how hot our summers can be. And we were hiking in the summer heat. And we were running up a mountain. And you feel like your life will be over in 4, 5, 3. It's awful at times. But being able to push past what feels impossible and to succeed and then be prepared when the final trip came was amazing. And then we were so ready and in such good shape that the Grand Canyon, hiking it was pretty easy.
When Gold Rush century, West America has many people, but now East America has more people than West America. Why people move West America to East America?
When we first came to America, we came on the east side. We came from the UK, from Spain, from France, and we settled there. And that's where many important parts of American history are. That's where our capital is, that's where our government forms and meets. It's got a lot of our past, even though it's a very short past, it has a lot of our history. Then when we started moving westward to see how big America was, we started to find things like the gold rush. And that brought a lot of people because of opportunity and money. But people normally go where jobs are. And so the East Coast and the West Coast, I think, have the most amount of jobs in America. The middle of the country has a lot more land for farming and for kind of like bigger factories and things like that. So that's a very difficult question. People go where there's opportunity, and I think that that's all that you're seeing is where the opportunity was at just now, but it can change in the next few years.
Thank you for a great answer.
What was your favorite food you had eaten?
I don't know. I really like Korean food. before I came to Korea, I had maybe only had Korean food one time. And so I was very nervous. Will I like it? Can I eat rice every day? But maybe Mexican food first, like burrito or taco. But otherwise, maybe galbitang or yang galbi.
Thank you.
What is the most different thing like culture studying between America and Korea?
The one that I see the most is how different schools are and how different the students are. Korean students have a very difficult but maybe rewarding life here in Korea. The harder you work, maybe the more opportunity you can have. That's sometimes true in America, but a lot of times it has more to do with where you started. Did you start on third base? Did you start on second base? How much money does your family have? Right? Can you go to a better school than the other ones? Where in Korea, you can get a great education anywhere, and you can become whatever you want as long as you work hard enough. I think that sometimes Korean students have to work too hard, but I think that maybe that's the biggest difference, just the life of like a high school student in Korea versus my high school experience was very, very different. And I feel that when I teach my students and I see how tired they are when they come into class every morning. When I went to high school, I maybe went home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And if I did not have a test the next day and had maybe only 1 hour of homework, then I had free time for the rest of my night. I didn't have to go to a tutor or a hagwon or anything like that. And so I spent my childhood playing sports. And so I was a football player, and I feel like there's a lot of things that you can learn outside of school that sometimes aren't seen as important here in Korea. And I feel like I learned just as much outside of school and the things that I was doing within my community, like volunteering, than I ever did inside of any classroom.
During your travel, how did you communicate with people in different cultures?
I speak a little bit of Spanish, so when I was in Mexico, Honduras, and Guatemala, I had a little bit of Spanish with me, but I was also always there with a program. So I had translators working for us if there was any problems. And then when I was in Hong Kong, they spoke English. When I was in Korea, there's some English here as well, like you guys. No, but in Korea, I don't have too many problems with English as well. Philippines, English is almost a second language there as well, so a lot of people speak English. And in Myanmar, I think there were some people that did speak English. Myanmar had the British there maybe 60 years ago. But when I was there, it was less about being able to use my words, but more about like sharing experience with people. So I would have Burmese people join me on my trip for the day, and they would just kind of follow me around and be happy and be excited when I was excited and taking pictures. They would, always be looking at everything I was doing and say, "Oh, wow!" And it was just like kind of connection that you could have with a friend. Like if you're really close with someone, maybe you don't need to say anything if you're hanging out for the day. You just have a good time together, and being in each other's company is all that matters. And then I rely on technology, like my phone, to help me get around when it becomes difficult. But I haven't had too many problems. Thankfully, English is my first language, which gives me kind of an unfair advantage to be able to travel to many places around the world, because it's like the international communication language in a lot of places. Yeah.
You said that it is very hot in summer. Then can I ask you, climate in winter or Äri조나?
Yeah, so outside of summer months, the rest of the year is amazing. maybe the hottest it will get is like 35, and it's like around anywhere from like 27 to 30 during winter time. So it's fantastic. It's like being on the beach every day. And there's like soft breeze coming in and cool air hitting your face. I love, love, love winter in Arizona, and it's a state that people call like a snowbird state. And snowbird means like people from other places like New York or Montana or Wisconsin that are up high and very cold normally will come to my state. They will have like a second home in my state and come and live there during winter time because it is so beautiful.
I love to travel too, so I want to ask about your travel style. Which travel do you like, unplanned travel or planned travel?
Unplanned travel, definitely. I think that kind of wandering around and finding your own way in a new place is the best way to experience things, and you'll run into people and go to places that you would have never been if you had planned.